Well, hello, everybody. How is everybody going? Okay, we've already see that many of you are joining us already, definitely more than we were expecting. So just after a short warm-up with a bit of Pink Floyd, I think that we can definitely start our discussion on what else than money. So hello, everybody. Welcome and thank you again for your participation. I'm so glad to see that so many of you want to gain more in-depth knowledge on how marketing agencies can turn their client reporting into an actual revenue stream. I am Calina Ardelean. Nice to meet everybody. I'm a demand generation manager at Watergraph, and I'm joining you from Romania. And together with me today, I have my colleague, Laurynas. Laurynas, over to you.
Thanks for the introduction, Calina. So I'm joining you today for this webinar from Lithuania, and I am super excited to speak to all of you about quite a few things that I've gathered from many different agencies and clients that I've worked with, especially once it comes to making sure people read the reports and making sure that they're priced appropriately. And back to you.
That's great. So we are so glad to see that in these busy days, you've actually managed to find some spare minutes to be here with us, mostly because that means that you are interested in self-improvement and continuous development. And let me assure you that you're in the right place to be. So just to make sure that we can align to your informational needs today, we want to ask our first question of the day. That being, what are you looking to get out of this webinar? So I'm going to launch the first question. You will see it prompted on your screen. And here we have 4 options. I want to learn to price client reports, gain insights on how to adjust report pricing, learn from success stories of others, or something else. Now, Laurynas, what's your feeling about this? What do you think people came in to find?
I think they came in to find a bit of everything, really, but interesting to see which one is the most important for them. Which one would you pick? I would probably go for get insights on how to adjust report pricing.
Definitely. I think strategies work best with me as well. So, wow, we already see some answers here. Let's just leave 10 more seconds to it, and then we can end the poll and see what people would like to find out today. All right, we have some more people who are still thinking, but just not to spend too much time on this. Let's just end it and let's see. I will share the results with everybody now. So we can see that most of the people would like to learn from success stories of others, but also to learn how to price client reports. So I just want to assure you that today we have covered them all. And also for those of you who answered something else, there will be time and chances to ask your questions today in order to answer and to discover more. So moving on. Today, like I told you, we have many things planned for you. So when we are talking about our agenda, we first included a question. What does the marketing industry say about reporting? And we are planning to answer it in a few moments using some statistical data from a recent agency and client research that was ran in 2022. Then, Laurynas will take the lead for the most expected part of the event. We want you to leave us with some applicable strategies that you can put in practice starting from today. So that's why he will share with you how you can turn your client reporting into a revenue stream and also what pricing strategies you could consider. Then we have also prepared a success story just to reinforce the fact that under the right tactics and tools, sustainable growth is more than possible. And last but not least, we are going to spare some time for the QA session. So please feel free to ask anything relevant to the topic in the QA section during the speech or even at the end. Some of your questions will be answered right away by Mantas, our great support from today. Thank you very much, Mantas, for helping us. And there's also the possibility to upvote some questions. So we will take the opportunity to answer to the most upvoted questions in the end of the webinar. Well, let's do this. Doing the same thing over and over again. I think this is a true sign of insanity. What do you think? Well, however, many of us find ourselves in the exact same position. We are striving for better results. We want more return of investment and definitely more clarity. But we are applying the same tactics over and over again, exhaustingly looking for a change that is not going to happen. Now, the same goes for marketing reporting. Personally, I've created and handed off plenty of marketing reports in my career. And oh dear, the manual data consolidation, the cross-channel calculations, the error checks, and the infinite number of reviews that had to be done in the last minute just took tens of hours of my work time. And all of this for just a short 15-minute presentation that didn't quite emphasize all the hard work and efforts that I put in it. Now, the worst thing I remember about this is not being able to get the financial value out of it, wasting precious resources and using tools that cost money because I lacked the knowledge on how I can start monetizing reports and how I can start getting more value of the work that I do almost every day. Reporting takes time, skills, and using the right tools. And time, skills, and using the right tools means money. And if you don't add value to your reporting right now, you might as well say goodbye to your employees, to your clients, and finally, even to your work satisfaction. Trust me, I've been there, and maybe some of you have been there as well. Now, I just added this slide right before the webinar, as I am currently reading a book by Ankur Warikoo, an entrepreneur, public speaker, an angel investor, and also YouTuber, who shares his professional mistakes and failures as part of a rich and fulfilling career in this book. Do epic shit. Sorry for the language. Now, it's very easy to read, doesn't take more than 2 hours, and I came across some paragraphs that work great with our topic from today. So this is part of his 10 common money mistakes to avoid, and some of the great ideas are included here. So first, not valuing your time and treating it like it's free, I think is the first mistake. Not knowing how much one of your hours costs, and not knowing how much you should charge for a project is another mistake. Also, last but not least, not understanding how our time equals money. So, good food for thought. Are you making any of these mistakes? I believe we all are, but I know that the important part of this is being able to learn from them and improving as we go. Now, we wanted to take a closer look into what the marketing industry thinks about reporting and making money out of it. So we've surveyed 160 mid-sized agencies and agency clients on a global level. The participating agencies said that they typically work with 11 to 50 plus clients, and they provided full spectrum services, also including offline media. The first finding was that 48% of agencies spend between 1 to 4 hours per week per one single client. Now, knowing that the most agencies that we've spoken to have between 11 to 50 clients, just taking the average of 30 clients and the average reporting time of 2.5 hours per week on client reporting, if we do the math, we get some impressive numbers. So we have 75 hours a week, which translates into 300 hours a month. And if we calculate this in weeks, we get 7.5 work weeks in total. Wow, I think that's a huge number. Now, what does this mean actually? It means that in order for agencies to be on the floating line, they have just a few options. So one would be to significantly cut back on the time spent on reporting per client, or another one to try to increase the headcount. But both of these mean resources, and resources cost us money. Now, moving on to the next question that we have prepared for you today, we would really like to understand how much time do you spend on reporting per week? Just a minute until I open the next question. Okay, so I'm launching the next question. You should be able to see displayed on your screen. How much time does your team spend weekly on client marketing reporting? And here we have three options: less than 10 hours, between 10 and 50 hours, and more than 50 hours. So Laurynas, what's your feeling about this?
I'm betting on the middle one.
On the middle one, I see.
What about you?
Yeah, I think the same, the middle one, or maybe even the first one as well, because 10 hours, I think it's also a lot. Now, let's just wait some more minutes for this. Okay, I see that. Okay, I won't share anything yet. I will just let the answers to the end. All right. So let's end the poll and see our answers. I'm sharing the results right now with you. So we can see here that the first option, less than 10 hours, was chosen by 58% of the people who responded, followed by 42% between 10 and 50 hours. So, wow, that's quite a lot anyway. I think it's a lot of time and many of our valuable hours spent on this, and it would be a pity not to get value out of it. All right, good stuff. Moving on, let me just close the poll. So moving on to the second important finding. When asked if they're happy with the level of the insight provided in their reports, a whopping 43% of clients said no, they are not really happy with what they get. And why aren't they happy? Well, it's about the information that they get, or better said, that they don't get. So definitely, they would like to get more insights on market segmentation and conversion tracking and attribution data. Well, if you also add some benchmarking against industry metrics, I'm sure that will be the deal. And in plus, recommendations and next steps shouldn't be missing from any report. Also, taking into consideration that there are many people in different roles who read these reports, it would be also important to include some explanations for non-marketers, people who are not really familiar with marketing terms. Well, now the fun part and the most expected one. Let's talk about the money. As today we are focusing on report monetization, we considered important to include information on report pricing. So when asked if agencies charge for reporting, 19% said that they don't charge for reporting at all. Although it is not a very big number, I think it's big enough to represent an improvement opportunity. Now, we're also curious to understand if you charge for your marketing reporting. So let's move to the last question for today. Do you charge clients for marketing reporting? And this is a simple one. Yes, no, or not sure, because maybe you don't have that information. So Laurynas, what's your guess here? And also from your experience as well.
I've already lost twice. I don't think there's any point me trying again. You take a pick this time.
All right, great. I would say that I would like people to charge for it, but then I think that they wouldn't necessarily be interested in our webinar and in what we have to say. So I would bet for no.
Fair enough.
Let's see.
Yeah, based on my experience, I would say that if we did this poll back, let's say 5 years back in time, I would say that most of the agencies wouldn't charge, but now I think they do actually charge.
All right, let's see. So sharing the results with you. Wow, we have an impressive 56% of people who said that they don't charge for marketing reporting at all, while 36% said yes, and also 8% said that they are not really sure about it. So let me assure you that this is the right place to be. One more time. All right, now charging for a report is one, but having someone actually paying for it is another, right? So let's take a look at what clients said. So in terms of how much clients are willing to pay for reporting, we have a 52% of clients who said that are willing to pay up to $50 per report. And another impressive number is the 38% of clients who said that they are willing to pay even up to $100 per report. So just in case you were thinking that no one would be interested in additional payment for the sake of data, just think again. The market is increasingly aware of the importance of data and reporting in sketching any viable business strategy. Now, why all this fuss with reporting? While showcasing results is the obvious part, reporting has other benefits too. First, it establishes a clear and consistent line of communication between your agency and your clients. It provides substantial material for discussion, which makes check-ins valuable and sought after. Reporting turns abstract concepts like growth into tangible metrics that can be measured, tracked, and accounted for. This way, agencies and clients can adopt a shared vocabulary, can set expectations, and work toward the same goals. Businesses today operate under major uncertainty. So reporting helps you and your client have a more agile response to changing market conditions. It helps you identify quick wins and spot minor issues before they become crises. Now, last but not least, we have to talk about transparency because reporting helps clients peek under the hood and understand where their marketing budgets are being spent. When done correctly, it builds trust, aids client retention, and even helps the upselling process. Now, based on the results of the survey, as well as daily interactions with our clients, we can clearly state that reporting is a sensitive spot for agencies. And we've also seen that looking at the answers to our questions from today. Even more so if all the costs associated with reporting need to come out of the agency's pocket. So to keep it sustainable and scalable, we want to help you forward-thinking people to find ways of turning client reporting into a chance to make money. So if we made you curious enough, just stay here with us because we are moving on to the 3 basic steps that you can take today to turn your client marketing reporting into agency revenue. Laurynas, are you eager to share this with our audience?
Very eager. Couldn't be more excited. So thanks a lot for the introduction again, Calina, and for great insights. And first, let's start with the fact that based on the poll results, some of you are already charging your clients for the reports. So stay tuned to figure out if you're doing it the right way. And especially for those who are not charging the reports, I think a lot of the content will be also extremely relevant. So if we go into the first step, so in this day and age, not all clients are created equal, obviously. So some require oversight, control, others need total freedom, right? Some have robust marketing knowledge, others need very, very close handholding. And when it comes to reporting, some really want to dive down deep into the numbers, and others are perfectly happy just getting some of the most important KPIs. So the first step is to know your audience appetite for data. It might seem quite simple, but when working with Watergraph users and a lot of agencies multiple times, I had to actually address the challenge of the reports not being thoroughly read by the end reader, by the end audience. So after all, we found out actually that the problem came from the fact that the agencies just didn't know that the need for data and how much data needed to be reported to that specific client. So I think we have to, in this instance, address the first elephant in the room. A lot of agencies do discovery calls with their clients before they sign up for a long-term contract, right? So that's, in my opinion, a great place to figure out how deep the client wants to get into the data. So don't automatically assume that showing some numbers will make you look better as a marketing specialist. Quite the opposite, actually. Not having a sharp focus, from my experience, and a story in a report not being told correctly or interestingly enough, means eventually that the reports will not be read by the end readers. However, don't worry if you haven't done the discovery calls, right? So I think Brent in the chat also mentioned that sometimes You do monthly or weekly check-ins with your clients, right? So what you can also do is then still address the elephant in the room and say, okay, you've been getting those reports for this amount of time. Are you happy with the numbers or the amount of data you're being presented? And don't be afraid of this question, really. So that would be for the first step. If we go into the second step, it is showing your clients the value. So once you figure out the right amount of data for them to have on the reports, let's tackle the second elephant in the room. So do your clients read the reports? And quite often in this day and age of limitless screen time and context switching, recurring reports that are not created on demand can just get ignored. And one of the things that I came across, and it makes me laugh a little bit, a lot of the end readers lie to the agency and say, oh, yeah, we've definitely read the report when they actually never looked at it. And some of the agencies have stats to show that actually. So I don't want to jump into the old-fashioned arguments and say, okay, make data interesting and stuff like that. But from our experience, some of the arguments that punch the hardest, that show and increase engagement, if you just tell them that not looking at the numbers, not visiting those reports, and not providing us with questions or feedback can result into either wasted budget or missed insights. And they actually work really well with one another. Missed insights can equal wasted budget and the other way around. And for the third step, last but not least, it's the third elephant in the room. We figure out the amount of data, we figured out how to show value. Are we pricing it correctly or are we pricing it at all? So of course, if you ask the clients directly if they will not mind having the reports being entirely free, probably they won't. But we've come to find out that not paying for the reports can actually cause disengaged readers even more and showing less interest because they take the reports for granted in the first place. So by now we've established that when it comes to reporting, clients want it, you have it. All that's left to do is make them pay for it. So based on our research and feedback from our clients and my own personal experience, the question is how. So agencies tend to have several options here, which I will just go ahead and present in the next couple of slides. So option number one is including the reporting costs in the management fee. As shared by Calina, in the State of Agency Client Reporting survey, most agencies chose to go down this route. And actually 40% of respondents mentioned that the reporting costs make up about 1 to 2% of their total fee, which is not a lot, right? But this method has a couple of pros. So let's go into them one by one. So the first one is it works with most agency pricing models. So this means this option is quite flexible and can also vary between clients depending on their complexity. So if you have clients that are smaller and vary in size, this is actually a good option for you to consider. But there's also a couple of drawbacks. So it can be seen as a lack of transparency by the clients. So to avoid that, what agencies sometimes do is they choose to itemize what their management fee is going to cover. So let's say monthly reports, including X number of pages, X number of KPI metrics and stuff like that. So it sometimes helps to combat this drawback. And also, this can be an unsustainable and hard to negotiate as the client's reporting needs grow or your agency just grows. So it's hard to justify this type of method. And if we go into the next option, you've got a more basic and simple option here to charge a flat fee per report. If we look back at the survey that I've just mentioned, flat rate fee was the second most popular opinion and method chosen by our respondents. So 32% mentioned that their reports cost between $5 to $100, and 30% mentioned that they charge somewhere up to $50. So the obvious pros here with this quite simple and basic option are that it works with, once again, with most agency pricing models, suggesting that this is quite flexible. And also it is easy to set and manage client expectations. So they get exactly what they pay for it. So you can always renegotiate this on a recurring basis and just make sure that expectations are managed correctly. And once again, the drawbacks here can result in added complexity if your clients vary in needs and size, and can also result in high and justifiable costs for complex accounts. So if you happen to have a fixed fee and you've got some really big clients that you need to do a lot of work for, they will be underpaying you really, and you'll be wasting a lot of your effort. And this can also lead to uncertainty of cash flow coming from reporting really, if you haven't agreed on minimum and maximum. And we go into the last option, which is charge an hourly rate. Once again, quite simple. And we've come to figure out that calculating hourly rates is no easy feat, really. So most basic first step would be to figure out the hourly rate of a person responsible for creating reports. So let's say that based on our survey, account manager's responsibility in an agency is exactly that. So the median hourly rate for an account manager in the US, as an example, is around 36 USD dollars. So that gives us a starting figure, but sadly doesn't end there. So need to factor in the technology, overhead costs, and even log in a timesheet, right? So the first pro, and sadly the only one, is this can help if your clients are varying very much in size and needs and complexity. But there's quite a few drawbacks that I want to go through with this one. So complex calculation and tracking. Do you need people like account managers to clock in somehow? Not ideal, difficult to establish what should be achieved in an hour, and also can raise questions and suspicions from the client side if they feel they're not getting the service they expected. So obviously went through a couple of options now, and now let's go into the real question. Why should you consider pricing? So let's just look at everything from a broader perspective. So obviously I've outlined a couple of drawbacks for each option, but I just wanted you to assess those options critically, really. And let's quickly go through a couple of points that I made here in my previous arguments, and why should we actually go ahead and price them. So number one, and the most important of all, is time. So creating custom reports for each client takes time, and it's and you mentioned in the polls that sometimes it's between 10, sometimes it's even 50 hours on a weekly basis, right? So it's only efficient if the time can translate into revenue. Otherwise, you're not really doing a sustainable business. Sorry to say that. Second most important thing is budget planning. So sharing the cost of reporting tools with your clients can be seen an investment rather than expense. And I thought this notion is no longer something that the market has, but this still comes quite a lot, that a lot of agencies view that an expense, and I'm personally trying to go against that. And then we've got third one, which is engagement. So motivating the clients to proactively read the reports and have them challenge the metrics presented should become a catalyst to start a conversation, in my opinion. So if those conversations are not taking place, I think you're missing out on some really valuable contextual insights from the customer side. And last but not least is opening a new stream of income. So if you do the pricing right, if you figure out the best technology to actually create your reports, this means clients who are into numbers can request a more detailed report for an additional fee. And you might even take this thing further and help the reporting to pitch new clients, right? So you can open a new stream of income. So that being said, turning client reports into true revenues is something that some of our clients have done in the past. So we do have one agency that I would like to present as a successful case study. It is basically an agency out of Kingston, Jamaica, working with some large international brands like Nestle, Red Stripe, and Hyundai. They were faced with some significant reporting challenges. So if we go into the next slide, we can go into those challenges very precisely. So they haven't used an automation tool prior to signing up with Watergraph and took a rather manual approach with this reporting business. So using Watergraph reports essentially allowed them to transport their reports into a much shorter and concise story told by the numbers. So they presented something that's already digested to their end reader. If we look at the quote, we can also see that once they implemented the technology together with Watergraph, the clients once again started to engage more and proactively participate in discussions with the agency themselves. So again, discussions might seem like an overkill, but having them and being able to answer your clients' questions will really make you look more professional and build long-lasting relationships with your clients. And trust me when I say that. So usually the quiet clients with no questions and having full trust in you, at least that's what they usually say, are the ones that are most unhappy and they're likely to churn, simply because maybe they say that they're happy with performance, but they don't challenge the metrics and perhaps they don't even understand them in the first place, which is even worse. So at least those are the things that I've observed from my side. And if you have other opinions, feel free to just go ahead and let's have a discussion in the Q&A session. Just use the chat. Mantos, who's also worked in a agency landscape, who will be able to answer the chats, can provide you with a lot of interesting insights, and he can back me up on a couple of arguments as well. So yeah. So then the director of this agency admits that there was obviously a learning curve associated with the new reporting process and format, and some clients remain stuck in their old ways. So the logical decision for the company was to implement it with new clients having the costs already built in the retainer fee as a line item. And they mentioned that this is the best decision that they made once it came to reporting processes. And the takeaway here from this client of ours is that, first of all, generating a new income stream for the agency is not that difficult. You just need to set good foundations for it, get out of your comfort zone, take a couple of small risks, and just think outside the box. Second of all, be prepared and patient, as this pricing change will not happen overnight, obviously. There'll be some pitching, some convincing to do with your current clients, with the new clients, but I think in the long run, this will definitely benefit them. And third of all, don't be demotivated if your clients get upset at the beginning. So remember, as weird as this might sound, this change and pricing the reports is done for their sake. And to sum everything up, what did I go through and what arguments did I make? So reporting takes time, skills, and using the right tools. And so basically, not valuing your time and skills makes you lose on money, really, at the end of the day. So know your audience, what data they need, different types of reporting into your agency's service, and basically you will be able to make something out of this, really. So if we just open the bullet points here, we will be able to go through everything. Just a small recap. So know your audience, show them the value, bake it into your pricing. How do we do that? We include a management fee, we charge a flat fee, or we charge an hourly rate. So whichever one is best suited for your agency. And why do we do that? We do that because we value precious time. We need to plan our budgets accordingly, just in case something happens, God forbid, to any of your clients or they have to leave. And we also need to promote engagement from the end rater side and open a new stream of income. And Calina is going to show you one of the tools that would potentially be able to help you out with some of these things that I've covered. And take it away.
All right, Laurynas, thank you very much. Great insights, super valuable. So just in case you haven't heard about Watergraph yet, let me tell you that it helps marketing agencies automate the creation and delivery of marketing reports. It helps eliminate complexity and streamline the client reporting processes, ultimately saving up to 5 hours per week per client. So what do you get in Watergraph? You don't require any additional data aggregators. You just simply add your data sources and start reporting. And if there are any integrations missing, you can use API as an option. Also, customizing reports will be a great option in Watergraph because you can use your brand image on all the reports that you send. And also you can schedule the reports that you want to send without needing to worry about manual sending, just trying to remember that you have to have everything in the report before the date of it being sent. Now, last but not least, the great support team from Watergraph can help you just acquire new skills in reporting and help you go through any challenge that you encounter while creating your reports. And what's a good news is that with Watergraph, you can include some additional resources in your report pricing strategies, meaning that there are some add-ons that can be priced separately than the regular report. But I will leave it to Laurynas to explain you a little bit more about it.
Thanks. So just like any other reporting and visualization tool like Watergraph, it has specific features that might be relevant for some of your clients more than others. And you could obviously charge them differently based on how many of those features they're using. So if we go into the first one, we've got live and automated reports. So this helps transparency and accessibility to daily, weekly, monthly, or quarterly or yearly reporting, which essentially means that you can set those reports to go out to the end reader on a specific frequency. And also this means that they can manipulate date ranges and look at any dates without having to every time on demand ask you to update those date ranges and send the reports to them. Then we've got PDF attachments, ability to save historical data for those who still are big fans of it. Then we've got personal insights and comments. So this helps to tell the story behind the numbers once again. And it essentially means that you can bring the biggest value to the customer and show how professional you are as an agency with some very important insights. And then fourth, but not least, is client agency review session. So as we discussed previously, you can build up your client agency relationships. So most of you do weekly, monthly, or quarterly reviews, or you do Zoom calls with them or face-to-face communication. So don't forget to also consider this when pricing those reports as a part of the package.
During the event, you had the chance to share your questions. Although I didn't see many in the chat box or in the QA section, now is your chance to leave your questions with us if there's anything that wasn't clear or if you would like to get additional information. We are here and taking the last minutes of today's event in order to give some answers to you. So please use the chat box in order to share your questions.
So I can already see one of the questions, which I'm going to answer live right now. So what is the personal insights and comments option? So in our instance, one of the most important things and one of the things inside the report that gets used quite a lot is there are text boxes which allow you to just personalize your insights and write everything from A to Z. So let's say you created a 5-page report to one of your clients, you've automated it, so you don't really have to do anything each month aside from go into the report, check the numbers, and based on those numbers, just type those insights. As soon as you confirm the report, once again, it goes out. So technically, if you know your way around numbers, you can probably go ahead and send that report with the insights in like 10 to 15 minutes, I suppose.
All right, great. Thank you. Okay, we see that we have another question here. Laurynas, if you can do the honors. We have it in the chat box.
Sure. So I can see Brent's question, whether there's any plans to move to an unlimited sources connections, Google Analytics, Facebook, etc. model. So at the moment, we don't really have any plans to move onto unlimited plans. Obviously, simply because we are limited by the API calls that we make on individual specific accounts and specific channels. So that's not something that we have liberty to do, but just in case if you need a lot of connections, I'm pretty sure one of the sales guys can possibly help you discuss this particular need and accommodate the very specific use case that you might have for maybe a larger number of data sources.
All right, great. Thanks a lot. Okay, we have here another question from an anonymous attendee. You've told us how much clients are willing to pay per report. I assume that for a flat rate. What about hourly rate? Do you have any insights on how much they're willing to pay? How much time is reasonable to charge for a report? Well, actually, I can share another article that we've created, which has more extensive data from the research that we have done among agencies. And I can give you that in order to get even more insights on that. And when it comes to hourly rates, just like Laurynas has mentioned, I think that the first thing to ask is how much does an hour mean, or how much does an hour value in each of the employees' time. So I think it's a bit hard to think about this, mostly because you first think about who is going to do the report. Is it a junior? Is it a senior? Is it a manager? And depending on that, you will definitely have slight different hour charges, I believe. Now, Laurynas, if you want to complete anything to this question.
No, I think you covered most of it. But probably just add, it obviously depends on country and the complexity of the accounts, really. But yeah. And then I can see another question from Magnus, and I would like to take that. My colleagues are arguing about using Google Data Studio instead of Watergraph. But for me, working performance marketing, I think this is more simple. Do you have good arguments and pros and cons to make? So I'm not arguing against the fact that Google Data Studio maybe has endless possibilities and a lot of flexibility and a lot of budget to actually launch all of those things. But essentially, given how large they are, you will not really receive handheld onboarding, or you will not receive answers to your questions really quickly. But most importantly, those reports, in my personal opinion, are not very visual. So if you have an end reader who's perhaps not that much into data, doesn't really understand, particularly how Google Data Studio works, it's much easier for them to digest small chunks and small pieces of information rather than having a dashboard that can do it all. But that person reading the dashboard just doesn't have the time to actually invest into learning all the nitty-gritty things, how everything should work. So in my opinion, I think this is the biggest argument for Watergraph over Google Data Studio. And obviously, we try to accommodate specific use cases for individual clients of ours. So if you do try out our platform for a bit longer, then it would be great for us to have you. And Calina, if you don't mind, I can see another question. Can we integrate different data sources and develop an intermediate data model from which we can then create a report? So if you have engineers who would be able to sync it together with a custom API, that is one of the integrations that we do offer. Obviously, this would require a bit of setting up, but that's also a possibility. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out in the live chat and we would be able to provide you with more details on it as well.
All right, great. Let me get the last question that we have here. So for digital marketing, which Watergraph widgets do you recommend charging for? A question from Caroline. So I think that there's there are unlimited possibilities in what widgets you can charge, mostly because you should actually charge for reports. And in reports, we can include numerous widgets that we can use. So Laurynas, would there be any recommendations on some widgets that we could charge and some that we can't? Because from me, I think that there are unlimited options.
Sounds great.
All right, great. Thank you very much. I don't see any other open questions right now. So
just before we wrap up, I've actually got one ready. So I was just discussing this with one of the clients actually a couple of weeks back. And what if so basically a lot of agencies I've heard saying that they feel bad for charging something for a report that takes 5 to 10 minutes to create. because it's just such a short amount of time. But the best argument against that would be that you need to factor in technology. You have to find the right tools. You have to pay for those tools. You've obviously required a specific set of skills to create that report in 5 to 10 minutes, specific sets of experience, really. So essentially, I think you don't need to feel bad about it, because you've invested so much time, money, effort into making sure that it's just 10 to 15 minutes creating a report, and definitely should not feel bad about it. So I'll leave you guys with this thought.
All right, great insight, Laurynas. Thanks a lot for sharing this with everybody. Now, thank you, everybody. Great stuff. Thanks for your participation and engagement. It definitely helped us to make the webinar more lively and energetic. So wait for the recording email. And just in case you want to replay our webinar again and get some notes if you weren't able to. And also we will share again the instructions needed in order to book a product tour and activate your 30-day free trial in Watergraph. Thanks a lot for your participation. It was really nice having all of you here. Cheers and all the best. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.